Sonic game collections are kind of a rare occurrence nowadays, but back in the day, they were released all the fucking time. In the GameCube era alone, there were 2 whole collections that included completely different games. Of course, the most recent collection is Sonic Origins, and it includes the 4 original classic Sonic games. And that was pretty much the case for every other Sonic game collection. There was rarely ever a collection that had games other than the original classic games, but they definitely exist. So in this video, we're going to be looking through the vast history of Sonic game collections, so let's just get into it. Starting all the way back on the Sega Genesis, there was actually a collection of Sonic 1, 2, and Dr. Robotnik's Mean Bean Machine called Sonic Classics. What a weird collection. I really don't understand why they decided to add Mean Bean instead of Sonic Spinball, which also came out around the same time. I mean, I guess I like Mean Bean better, but that's 3 Sonic games in a collection compared to only 2. It's just better for marketing, honestly. Now you may be wondering, what if they added Sonic 3? Well, if you ask me, adding 3 full-ass Sonic games in one bundle would be a fucking steal. So it wouldn't really make much sense from a business standpoint. Putting a silly spin-off game in there instead is more than understandable. But as for the games themselves, they're literally identical to their original release. However, Sega did implement some very minor fixes to the game's code for Sonic 1 and 2, but that's it. This collection doesn't include any extra content or anything like that. So I guess this isn't really much of a collection as it is a bundle. But let's just move on. Next up we have Sonic Jam, which is a collection of Sonic 1, 2, 3, and Sonic & Knuckles for the Sega Saturn. But along with including very good ports of the classic games, Sonic Jam also includes what is known as Sonic World, which is a fully 3D hub world where you could find many buildings containing art, music, missions, all of that good shit. Sonic Jam was actually really popular because this was the first time Sonic was seen in fully 3D. It was truly an important game despite just being a simple collection. It does kind of make me sad how we never got an actual 3D Sonic game in this style. I don't know, man, I just really like low poly Sonic for some reason. Sonic World is just really cool and was a great inclusion to this collection. But I guess we should talk about the actual games now. Surprisingly, these are some of the best ports of these games we've ever seen. We have the main 4 classic games along with 3 and Knuckles, but the difference is that they each have 3 different modes to choose from. If you set it to easy mode, it just cuts out a lot of the content from the base game, making it more easy and quicker to finish. Original mode has you playing through the original Genesis versions of the games. Nothing too special there. But then we have normal mode, which includes the games with significant bug fixes and tweaks that make these truly the definitive way to play these games on retro hardware. This is really the cherry on top for Sonic Jam because along with having a fully 3D area with missions, it also has actual good remasters of the games. Unfortunately, this game is just really obscure nowadays. I mean, it's definitely a cool collector's item though. That is, if you have a few $100s burning a hole in your pocket. Okay, it's finally time to talk about a collection that includes more than just the 4 original classic Sonic games. Sonic Mega Collection was a collection of Sonic games released for the Nintendo GameCube. This was not surprising to see at the time because the GameCube was the Sonic console. If you wanted to play pretty much any Sonic game, then GameCube would have been your best bet. After releasing remasters of SA1 and SA2, it just made sense to port some of the classic games as well. So, Sonic Mega Collection was born. This collection includes the usual classic games, being Sonic 1, 2, you get the idea. But along with those, it also includes Sonic Spinball, 3D Blast, and Mean Bean Machine. Finally, after countless collections with the same fucking games, we finally have some of the spin-offs included. I have one nitpick though. Why isn't 3D Blast the Saturn version? They used the Genesis version in this collection, which I guess makes sense because all the other games were for the Genesis, but a better version of the game exists, and it rarely gets ported. There are also some unlockable games. We have Sonic 3 and Knuckles, which you can unlock by playing Sonic 3 a certain amount of times. Like, why though? Kinda weird how you have to play the 2 halves of the game separately until you can unlock the full seamless experience, but whatever. We also have Knuckles in Sonic 2, which definitely makes sense as an unlockable. It's nothing more than something extra for Sonic 2. The same goes with the Blue Sphere mode, as that's also unlockable in this game. But there are also a couple of non-Sonic games that you can unlock in this collection, those being Rystar and Flicky. So Flicky is an interesting game because it's basically the Donkey Kong of Sonic games. This is technically the first Sonic game, I guess, so it's really nice to see it here. And I know Rystar has many fans, so having it in this collection is more than a welcome addition. However, in other regions, the collection had even more unlockable games. In Japan, it was also possible to unlock the Ooze and Comic Zone. Why these weren't included in the US version is kinda beyond me. I don't know, maybe they just thought it wouldn't be appealing to Westerners? I seriously don't know. Oh, but that's not all, far from it. The collection also includes an extras menu where you can access a shitload of artwork, cinematics, comic book covers, manuals, and the whole 9 yards. There is so much to look at here. This is what I like about game collections. The games themselves are cool, sure, but seeing all of this extra content is just so interesting to me. I'm very glad that they included all this stuff in the game. But that's Sonic Mega Collection. This is definitely the best collection so far. far, but how could it even be possible to top this? Well, by adding more games, of course. Sonic Mega Collection Plus was released not too long after Mega Collection, but it was released on more consoles. It was released on PS2, Xbox, and PC. Yeah, fuck you, GameCube users. I really don't understand why this wasn't released on GameCube. I mean, I guess because there was already a version of the game on the console, but at the same time, that would really suck knowing your console has the worst version of the same game that everyone else was playing. I don't know, it's just weird to me. But anyway, Sonic Mega Collection Plus. This is definitely not the last time they used the whole Plus branding, but unlike Origins, this extra content is actually good. For one, all of the games are still here, including the Japan exclusive ones. But along with that, we also have a selection of Sonic Game Gear games. We got Sonic Labyrinth, Sonic Drift, Sonic 1 8-bit, Sonic Chaos, Mean Bean 8-bit, and most of these games kinda suck, like why would I ever play Sonic Labyrinth? But aside from that and a cool looking menu, Mega Collection Plus doesn't include anything else. It makes sense, this was pretty much only made for people who didn't have a GameCube, so in that case the extra content is a welcome addition. But I just can't help but notice how there are multiple games missing from this collection. Sonic 1 8-bit was added but no Sonic 2? Also, where is Sonic Triple Trouble and Sonic CD? Why weren't those added? Well, no worries my friends, because shortly after Mega Collection dropped they released Sonic Gems Collection, which is a collection of some quote-unquote hidden gems in the Sonic series. Only for GameCube again. What is wrong with this company? This was unexpected, but still really cool. The fact that Sega wanted to port these games at all is just fascinating. And before you write your comment like, actually, Gems Collection was also on PS2 in Europe and Japan, I know. If anything, that makes it even more weird. Why would they lock these games to one console, especially since they made the effort to put Mega Collection on every console? I really can't tell you. But let's talk about the actual games, shall we? The headliners here are Sonic CD, Sonic the Fighters, and Sonic R. What a fucking lineup. Sonic CD felt missing from Mega Collection, so it's a welcome addition, but Sonic the Fighters and Sonic R? What? Listen, as much as I like these games, I can't help but point out how these are just such weird additions. These are the main selling points of the game, which I just can't wrap my head around. At the time, Sonic the Fighters was some silly arcade game, Sonic R was a mediocre racer, and Sonic CD was Sonic CD. I really don't understand the thought process here, but all of the games work fine enough. They actually upgraded the resolution and textures of Sonic CD and Sonic R, which is a really nice change. In my opinion, other than the PC version, this is the definitive way to play Sonic R. And as for Sonic the Fighters, this was the first time it was available on a home console, which of course gave many people the opportunity to play this game for the first time. I mean, hopefully they weren't expecting too much. Oh, but that's not all. This game also has its own set of Genesis and Game Gear games. Sonic Triple Trouble and Sonic 2 8-bit are both here, thank God. And they also threw in Sonic Spinball 8-bit and Sonic Drift 2, because why not? There's also some Genesis games, but none of them are Sonic. Vectorman and Vectorman 2 were unlockable in Western regions, while Bonanza Brothers and Streets of Rage 1 through 3 were unlockable in Japan. Again, why? What is the point of leaving these games region locked? There could have been some licensing issues back then or something, I honestly don't know. Even though the game selection is good, I think they could have added more to it. At the very least, I would have wanted to see Knuckles' Chaotix in the Saturn port of 3D Blast. The extra content is pretty similar to Sonic Mega Collection. We have multiple pieces of concept art, illustrations, and even playable demos for other games. That's really cool stuff, but I really have nothing else to say about this collection. This is just such a weird one to me, and I think it always will be. It's the only Sonic collection ever to not include the OG classic Sonic games. That's just kinda crazy. But I hope you didn't miss those classic games because we're going to be looking through them again. Sonic Classic Collection on the DS was actually the first time I was exposed to these classic games. I remember playing countless hours of this game on my 3DS, especially on long road trips and whatnot. I never really got past the first level of each of the games though because I was a child. But how does this collection hold up today? Not very good. The collection includes ports of the usual classic Sonic games along with Knuckles and Sonic 2. But the thing is, these ports include so many issues. I really don't know why, but this game has a ton of frame rate and audio issues. This kinda sucks because apart from that inconvenience, the game is perfect on the DS. I would say this is the definitive way to play classic Sonic on the go if those issues weren't present. But Sonic Classic Collection will always be a special game to me, even if it objectively isn't that good of a collection. Alright, let's talk about Sonic Origins. Listen, the reason why I haven't made a Sonic Origins review yet is just because I didn't fucking feel like it. I mean, we all know the story by now. Sonic Origins is generally a collection of rushed remasters of the 5 OG classic Sonic games. I do like how it includes Sonic CD along with Sonic 1, 2, and 3, I'll give it that, but all of these ports are generally inferior to the other methods of playing these games. The original Steam version of CD clears Origins in every way, but they delisted it when Origins came out. Sonic 1, 2, and 3 all have really good fan-made recreations that include so many customizations optimization and graphic options. None of that is possible in Origins. Yes, it is kind of unfair to expect this from an actual collection, but the main issues I have with Origins are the bugs and the extra content. To this day, there are a ton of issues with Origins when it comes to bugs and glitches. I'm not going to go through all of them, but they definitely exist and are very noticeable. The fact that quote-unquote remasters of these ass-old games have any bugs at all really says a lot about how Sega treats their developers. There's also a lot of stuff that shouldn't even exist in the first place. Why is there a weird blur effect? Why is there input lag? Why can't I use the life system in widescreen? Why is classic mode not actually classic mode? I could go on. Also, yeah, the Sonic 3 music is different, but that's not really a huge deal if you ask me because, well, there was really nothing they could do. But the extra unlockable content is especially bad. I think it's cool having missions along with an art gallery and everything else, but if you're going to charge extra for some extra music tracks that I could just look up on YouTube, then at least have the common fucking decency to name them correctly. Also, why did they lock the ability to zoom in on the islands behind pay DLC? I mean, I get it, they wanted money, but still. There are some good things about Origins though, because at its core, it's still just the main classic Sonic games with a few changes, so it's nothing too terrible. And they also added animated cinematics to connect the games to one another, which is really cool, and the animation looks really nice. But otherwise, it's just pretty meh. Kinda disappointing, because this game should have been a slam dunk. 1 year after the initial release of Origins, they announced Sonic Origins Plus, which added some extra content for an extra fee of $10. First up, the game added Amy as a playable character. I can definitely see why they did this. Sonic Superstars is coming out soon, so they saw the perfect opportunity to put her as a playable character in Origins, and she's pretty much just an easier version of Sonic. They also added Knuckles in Sonic CD, and he even has exclusive routes. And while this is cool, I feel like this should have been a part of the base game, but should I even be surprised at this point? They also added some emulated Game Gear games for us to play, and these are just horrendous. The audio sounds trash, the button mapping is weird, it's just bad. How the hell do you mess this up? Also, I find it kind of weird how they include the 8-bit versions of Sonic Spinball and Mean Bean, but not the Genesis versions? Whatever. But overall, Sonic Origins Plus just kind of sucks, and it's disappointing because every collection before it was really good. But anyway guys, those are most, if not all of the Sonic game collections. I really hope you all enjoyed this video, and let me know what you think about these games in the comments down below. But thank you all so much for watching, and I will see you all later. Goodbye.